Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about analyzing the graphs of functions. So to start off with, let me just get straight into an example. And let's take a look at some sort of function, which let's do this, something like that. That last point should go all the way to 4, so let me try to make that a little more clear. And then on the y-axis, we'll say this is about -3 here, and we'll call these points 4. So these are the points 4, 4. And then this is the point 2, -3, obviously not drawn to scale. This is the point -1, 4. And then over here we have the point -2, 2. Okay. Let me pause just for a moment to make sure you are able to sketch that in your notes somewhere. Okay. I guess you could also just pause the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is positive and negative. So for this function, I want to figure out where this function is positive and negative. So let's take a look. Now keep in mind the function it's really the y values we're talking about. So one thing I was talking with another teacher about one year is we were trying to figure out the best way to do this. We obviously know that we have our x, we have our y-axes, but another way you can think about it is your teachers will say, where does something happen? That is always the x-axis. And then you'll be asked to describe what is happening, and that is always the y-axis. So the x is, you can think of that as the where axis, and the y is the what axis. So when I'm saying, where is the function positive and negative? I'm saying, the y values will be positive and negative, and what are the x values that work? So really, in these problems, the question is, where is the graph positive and negative? So let's just kind of track this. If I start over here at -2, this is all positive up until about here. So right at that point, this becomes negative, or hits 0 at least. And then it's also positive over here. So that means that I have one interval on the left side from -2 to 1. Notice I am including -2 because right at -2, the function is, or the y value is still positive. And then the other interval is from 3 to 4, so I'm going to include 3 to 4 on this interval as well. So that would be this region here, and then that region there is where it's positive. Now that leaves kind of this middle region where the function actually drops below 0, and so it's actually going to be negative right in there. So we would say this first part is the positive interval, and for negative we would say between 1 and 3. Because right at 1, it's actually 0. And so then I also might say, where's the function 0? And you would tell me it's 0 at x equals 1 and at x equals 3. So these are called the zeros of the function. It's where the function equals the x value that yields a y value of 0. Okay, so once again, we're using interval notation. If you're not sure about that, I do have a video in section 1.4 for you. But the idea is it's positive from -2 to 1. So if you're looking at the graph here, all of that region, and then it's also positive from 3 to 4, and then it's negative from 1 to 3, so in this area here. Okay, so that is the first part, positive, negative, and 0. The next thing I want to analyze with a function is what's called increasing and decreasing. So I'm going to use the exact same graph. I'll redo it here because it's getting pretty chaotic on that, so let me copy it down exactly. I'll be a little bit more careful with my spacing this time. And then negative 1. So we're going up to 4, down to 3. And we have these points here, negative 2, 2, negative 1, 4, 1, 0, 2, negative 3, 3, 0, and then I get all the way up to 4, 4. So that looks a little bit better now. Okay, so the same graph, except now we're going to say where is the function, first of all, increasing and decreasing. So once again, you're looking at the what axis is where we'll talk about the increasing and the decreasing, or the y-axis. The where is what our actual answer is going to be. So let's say I'm walking on this from left to right. And if you were, let's say this was like a hill or something that you were walking on, you would be increasing your height. You'd be going up until you got to here. Once you got to there, you would actually start to decrease. And then you start to increase once more. I actually encourage you to do this when you're solving problems. Copy the graph down and mark it up like this, because it's easy to mix up increasing, decreasing with positive and negative. So now you would look at your intervals. Let me go ahead and remark these x values so we have them. You'd say, well, I'm increasing from negative 2 to negative 1, and then also from 2 to 4. And so then if we were to mark down where the function is increasing, you'd have negative 2 to negative 1, and also we said 2 to 4. Notice on this one I don't ever include the endpoints, because right at the value of 2, the graph is changing. It's not increasing or decreasing, it's actually changing. And then for decreasing, we would say from negative 1 to 2. Oops, sorry about that. And then the next thing I'm going to ask is what's called the relative maximum, or I should say maxima for plural, and minima. And in this case, you can just give me the points where those occur. So let's take a look at my graph. This value here is the largest point from anything around it on either side. And at the end points, that's also actually the largest. So for my maximum, you could just say max. I have the point negative 1, 4. Oopsies. Negative 1, 4. And the point 4, 4. Notice these are now ordered pairs. They're not intervals. So up here they were intervals. Down here we're looking at ordered pairs. And then for my minima, looks like this will be 1, and then this will be 1. So that was negative 2, 2, and 2, -3, yep, and 2, -3. And now the graph is actually fully analyzed. So as a summary of what we talked about in this section, we talked about positive and negative intervals. Oops. Positive and negative intervals. We talked about zeros, and these were ordered pairs or points. We talked about increasing and decreasing. This was listed as an interval. And then we talked about the relative maxima and minima. And these were listed as points. So I'm going to do another example, and I'm going to do all of this out in a little bit more detail. Not in more detail, I'm just going to do all of this in one go. So let's take a look at another example now. So the question is going to be, where is the function positive and negative? Where is the function 0? Where is the function increasing and decreasing? And where is the function relative max and relative min? So this is essentially going to be part A, part B, part C, and part D of the problem. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a graph. I'm going to start at -5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so let's say that we're going to start here. This is -5, -2. We're going to go down to about, we'll say here. And then I'm going to go back up again through this point. And let's peak here. So this, let me write some more notes in here. This is -3, -5. This is the point 1, 2. And then I'm actually going to end right there. No, I'm going to keep it going so it doesn't end there. So it's going to go through, and then we'll end it maybe here. So this is the point 3, -4. Okay, so here's the graph we'll be looking at. Go ahead and copy that into your notes. So let's start off with part A, which was positive and negative. The positive region to me looks like it's roughly only there. And then the negative regions look like they are here and then here. So I'm going to go ahead now and write these in terms of interval notation. I'm going to erase what I noted on the graph just so I don't get too confused later on. It's positive from 0 to 2. And it's negative from -5 to -3, and also from 2 to 3. I'm not going all the way to 5 because the graph ceases to exist after this point. There's no graph over here. Okay. The zeros are x equals 0 and x equals 2, just to double check. 0 and 2 it looks like. The function is increasing, and then we'll look at decreasing. Function looks to me like it's increasing in this region here, and then it is decreasing to start with over there and also over here. So putting that into interval notation, it's increasing from -3 to 1, it looks to me. And then it is decreasing at -5 to -3, and also from 1 to 3. And then the relative maxima, sorry about that, and the relative minima. Now these are points, not ordered pairs. The relative minima looks to me, sorry, maxima first, we'll do, it's right here and also right here are the max. And then the minima are this one and this one. I like to try to color code. So we'll say -5, -2, and also the point 1, 2. Just double check that that's correct. Yep. And then the minima are at -3, -5, and at 3, -4. Okay. I believe that covers it. If you do see any errors in my work, please let me know, but I think that's correct. And that concludes this part of section 1.5.